Good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, chaps. Welcome to the Green Arrow podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we ease out of the international break and go headlong into 8 game weeks in 42 days, the busiest and most chaotic time of the season. My name is Fergie. Rich, welcome back. And what colour was your arrow in game week 12?
Hi everyone. Green. I think
Decent green, but actually
so long ago now. I'm not sure. Yeah, decent green. I set myself a target in the last block of 4 games. I think to go from 2.5 million to about 1 million. You know, an achievable goal. I think I've just missed it. I think I'm about 1.1 or something, but about 4 points off that goal. So you've got to look back on that last period of games, which included my wild card, as being quite a success. So pretty happy, pretty motivated with continuing to make progress. And as you say, you know, we're getting into the most intense period of the season now. So looking forward to the next flurry of games, I guess.
Indeed. 22 points benched, Rich. You had Simicast third.
Yep.
He was never realistically coming on for you. Did you... I'm assuming it was his fault for the goal and half-time hauling off as one in the commentary, which caused you to bench him.
Yeah, I think, you know, looking back at the performance in the Liverpool's Europa League fixture, it looked like he was unlikely to start, you know, in the Premier League game. So I think, given the fact my team was very strong last week in setting up, I could have played any of my defenders. I think he was logically the one to put on the bench, as he was a doubt to start. And yeah, that's FPL for you, isn't it? You know, all of a sudden, probably people with weak benches or injured players, you know, just had to play him, and you know, it sucks a bit. But I'm in a Palmer. I've had Palmer since game week 10, and I've missed his points the last 2 weeks as well. You know, again, logically, you'd bench him against City, but he's still returned. He's returned double figures the previous week. But again, I'm glad to have him in the team. I'd rather look on the positive side that I've got a player in a while back that everyone else is going to be using transfers to get in coming weeks. So feel good about the squad, even if the score was, you know, only half decent. You know, so I'm good.
Well played, Rich, and welcome back to FPL legend, Big Man Bakar. Bakar, it's been a little while, but it's great to have you back. How are you? And what colour was your arrow in Game Week 12?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Fergie. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. The arrow was green, so like Rich, I've had 5 successive green arrows since the wildcard in Game Week 10. It's been slow progress, but it's been gradual progress, and at least I'm heading in the right direction. I was one of those who sold Simicast last week with 2 free transfers. I guess I misjudged his minutes. At the same time, I guess I was unlucky because we didn't know that Gomez was going to be injured. Simicast played, and as luck would have it, he got a 15-pointer haul, despite the fact that Brentford probably should have scored, and some of those goals that he assisted were of very low XG, but it is what it is. I got Saliba instead, so I'll take the rub of the green with the goal. I get that was lucky as well. But yes, looking forward now with the congested period coming up. Lots of game weeks are going to happen in quick succession. So this is the time to make gains.
And we must also give you big congratulations, Bakar, for your bronze award in the Football Content Awards editorial section. Very, very well done. But Bakar writes for us here at fantasyfootballhub.co.uk if you want to read that, and also his threads are obviously infamous on Twitter as well. So very, very well played there, Bakar. Absolute FPL legends, we say, and getting a lot of love in the chat as well. As Sokan says, Bakar is on fire. Great moves. And John Tyner says, congrats, Bakar, on your award. Looking ahead, looking at my team, 70 points, Simicast bench, and I mean... Udogie, this should be a violin moment, but it's not. I played Udogie the week before Bakar. Obviously, it was the Monday night, so when he started, I was giving it a bit of a fist pump. Come on, he started -4, and then because I had 2 free transfers, I didn't really want to make any moves, if I'm honest. But because I had 2, I didn't want to burn. This should definitely be a violin moment. Actually, I'm going to play the violin. I just because I didn't want to burn a transfer, I took out Simicast for Lascelles and played Lascelles for his 0-pointer, hence put in Simicast on the bench. So that that stung a little bit. 70 points, a poor week. Still a miraculous green arrow, but incredibly small one. But just to conjure Richard's point, that he was at 2 million and his target was 1 million, and he achieved 1.1 million, which is really, really close. Well done, Rich. Nice little stretch target for you, just inside that. I was at 2 million. My target was 1 million, and I'm now at 2.1 million. So I've actually worsened my performance, if that's possible, from where I was. But in terms of the way I've played, it probably wouldn't change an awful lot. I think it was the words on Simicast, and I think we were actually on Green Arrow when it happened, and I think I saw the word hold off. He's been hauled off at half time, and when you see the words hold off, I can almost imagine Klopp gripping him round the neck and almost dragging him off by his hair and saying, "Get off, you're rubbish, what are you doing on my pitch, and that's the kind of image I sort of had in my head. So I thought, there's no way he's going to play on the weekend, but as it is, there we go. And as you say, Rich, such is FPL. Anyway, let's welcome everyone in the chat. SEO FPL is in. Ross Johnson, Dixie Nomads, Mahomey says, even though looking forward to the Peloton suggestion of Mbomo. Referee Rick is in. FPL Gaza, Super Tiger, Zell is in. Jamie Clarke says, interesting one this, I haven't heard this. He says, Kevin Nolan just said Bowen should be fine on TalkSport. Breaking news. This is why we enjoy going on a Thursday evening, because we get the latest and greatest news. Thank you for that, Jamie. Helga is in. Chris Jargo, Brandon, Ian A, Gareth Robinson, Tim Evans, Phil Wright, and so many more. Thank you all so much for your kind words in the chat. It's great to be back and great to be looking forward. Just before we start off, we've got a Black Friday offer. If you're not a Fantasy Football Hub member, if you want to see what it's all about, if you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can now do it for a full 30 days free Black Friday offer. This includes our My Team features, including recommended transfers, predicted points through artificial intelligence, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members, and so much more. I haven't got time to go through everything. We just got like ridiculous features, but what it does helps you win your mini leagues, do well at FPL. It's also really enjoyable. Don't forget, it's all on the Fantasy Football Hub app as well. It's an absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL. Free for 30 days. So basically, you get the next 5 game weeks of full Fantasy Football Hub power for free. Give it a go. You will not be disappointed. We did have a couple of other violin moments. They're quite similar to my ones. Let's have a quick look. First one we've got was Joshua Tan. Joshua Tan sold Burn for Lascelles, who got a big fat 0. And guess who I benched? He says Simicast. That's not all. If I didn't sell Lascelles, I would have 2 free transfers. We'll be able to deal with Cash and Bowen as they are now injured. We may have, I think we've seen some really positive reports of both those players. You may be all right there, Joshua. And the final one again from Frederick, making a strong debut in the violin moment. He also had Simicast on the bench, but he also had Solanke on the bench as well. So he had 30 benched points. And he says, to add salt to the wound, I did bench boost also in game week 10, earning a massive 5 extra points. So a rough couple of weeks for Frederick there. 5 points bench boost game week 10, 30 benched points. So if he'd have played his bench boost a week later, he would have had an additional 25 points. But yeah, it's tough stuff there, gents. You are honorary members of the Violin Club. Don't forget to send your submissions every week for a chance to become a member of this very exclusive club. Let's move on. And firstly, game week 12 fallout. Rich, flags of the world. Do you want to just talk us through where we are?
Well, I mean, it seems to me like some of them are, very minor. I think the FPL Towers tends to drop a flag on anyone who comes home from international duty or doesn't appear as expected. I mean, there's flags on key players like Erling Haaland. I honestly can't believe he's not going to play against Liverpool at the weekend. Matty Cash, another popular player, seems to be okay. There's lots of players out there who've got flags against them at the moment who really I wouldn't worry too much about it if you've got them in your squads. But up until the news you just read out on the chat there, the two major ones this week look like being Bowen and Matoma. They're both very highly owned. I've got Matoma in my side, and I don't have Bowen, but he's in about getting on for 40% of the squads now. And then Callum Wilson, he was flagged just before the break. Still going to be out now for 6 weeks. So I actually got rid of him last week, but now that when one door closes, another one opens, doesn't it? With Wilson being out, and then I think that's Awani on the right hand side of the slide there. I think he's had a bit of a setback today, and he's going to continue to be out for a bit longer. So that might open the door again for
months and months.
One of his understudies to set in. How long?
3 to 4 months, apparently, or 1 year.
3 to 4 months, right? Wow. Well, there you are. So some of these long when you get an injured player, but he's out long term, that does make you think about alternatives coming in, because the understudy is often cheaper and can be a very good differential. So yeah, it's worth checking your sides. It's worth waiting for team news tomorrow afternoon. I would
Have
say,
you waited this week, Rich? Flags. Patience, calm, discipline, Rich.
Yeah, that's normally my mantra, isn't it? No, I actually haven't waited. I have already made my transfer, but I think I heard Bakar on one of his many pieces of content also saying that he had exact money to make a certain move. So yeah. I have
no prizes for guessing.
I have already made it. Yeah. So
yeah. So kind of looking at those flags, Bakar, looking at the popular players and stuff, what does this mean in terms of opportunity for managers in the short, and which players should be looking at in the short term, and should we be taking out the likes of Matoma and Bowen and stuff? And really, because they're so highly owned. I've got Matoma as well. He just smacks of one of those that he was spotted training today. If he does play and he's fit, I mean, and he bangs, it's just it's
the worst.
It's just really frustrating,
made, isn't
exactly.
It?
Yeah. I mean, the popular flags are Matoma, from what we've seen, he is in training. There are no pictures of him being in team training. He could be in individual training. I guess we'll hear more in the press conference tomorrow, but it looks like he'll be fine. Having said that, I'm not exactly certain that he'll start this week, even if he is fit, because Brighton have this fixture in the Europa League on Thursday against AEK Athens, and Brighton are actually second in their group. So that's a bit of a must-win game for them. So he could easily be saved for that fixture. Even if he starts, there's a chance that he gets taken off early. So if you have made that move, like yourself, or I've done the same thing, I'm not exactly too disturbed by this news of him being fit, because I think even if he was fit, I would have made the transfer anyway. Having said that, if you have other fires to put out in your team, then Matoma is perfectly fine keeping as well. Coming to Bowen, the news isn't exactly been that positive. We're hearing that he has fluid in his knee, but I guess again the same. We wait for the press conference tomorrow. But I think out of all the flags, the most serious one seems to be Bowen, because we're not sure whether he's going to play this week, or we don't really have a timeline on his recovery. As long as Haaland and Cash go, I think Cash is trained this week. That's a bit of a false flag, and Haaland as well, I expect to be fine, like Rich. But coming to your point regarding the congested schedule and expected minutes, this is where getting the likes of let's say Watkins, Son, Saliba, and Bomo, these guys who are going to play 90 minutes, were likely to play 90 minutes in all those fixtures, and they'll leave you with little to no headaches in this congested period. This is where their value really goes up, because you don't really want to be in a situation where you're putting fires out in your team every week by having players who are not going to play. So this is where you need to get those players who are likely to play the maximum amount of minutes.
That's a really good point, and not really thought of it like that. The kind of really fit 90-minute men. Yeah. So in terms of the players we've got on screen in the short term, so we've got like Mbomo, Cole Palmer, Eze is popular, Solanke, Isaac. Who are the players, Rich, who you think are the ones that can get us the points in the short term, and then we'll chat a little bit about the longer term sort of strategy then.
Yeah, there's certainly the obvious pick that many are discussing this week, and especially moving off one of those mid-priced mids is to move from Burma. Now the reason he's popular, if people watching aren't familiar, is he's got a very nice run of fixtures coming up from game week 14 onwards, and obviously, the home game against Arsenal this week is possibly bringing him in a week early. But if you're like me and you have really poor team value, which I'm still battling to fight back from, just gaining, I think he'll be 7 million by game week 14 deadline easily. He's definitely going to rise this week, and he'll have another rise next week as the masses buy him. So I can claw back 0.2 million by buying him this week, regardless of who I'm selling. So I think he's definitely one to have. Also, although you've got a blank game week for Brentford in game week 18, they are likely to get a double confirmed soon in game week 20. So the popular strategy will be to ride through game week 18 with Mbeumo and Haaland on your bench. Maybe one or two other Brentford and City players, but those two are likely to be carried through by about 5 million people that week. And then on the other side, if you've carried transfers through, you can then build for the double in game week 19 and 20 and be strong with City and Brentford players for that double. So that's why he's popular. But there is an alternate strategy. If you really want to play the fixtures, then bringing in Eze temporarily for a couple of games, and then switching him to Mbeumo or switching him to Palmer when Chelsea's fixtures really improve. That's a sort of 2-move strategy that will really maximise the fixtures, because Brentford's fixtures don't get good this week. They get good next week. Chelsea's fixtures get good arguably from game week 16 onwards, but they have Brighton next week, so you could start moving for Chelsea assets next week. And equally, Solanke is very popular in content this week in being discussed as a budget forward. Bournemouth suddenly seem to have turned the corner with a lot of people, and now he's definitely a popular pick. But I like the guy at the back there in the graphic, Isak. Obviously I've moved for Wilson on the wild card because Isak was injured, and now that's switched around. Wilson is now injured and Isak is going to be the main man. So when you can rely on the Newcastle striker, knowing that he's going to start the Premier League games, he becomes an excellent pick, because Newcastle's still right up the top in terms of expected goals and in terms of their stats. So Isak looks a great differential. If you were wildcarding this week, I'd almost definitely have Isak in there because of the low ownership that he has. So they're all really good. They're all a really good set of players to have. But I think Newcastle, you could afford to wait on at least see him on the grass. I would say that of Nkunku as well, who's not on this slide. They're two good strikers to have in, but let's let them get back and get playing before, because they could come on like a stupid and break down after 10 minutes. So you need to see him have half a game first.
I'm really excited to see Nkunku. I haven't seen an awful lot of him, but read an awful lot, and the kind of experts who have watched him and what they've had to say, and with Chelsea's fixtures turning in about 3 game weeks time, he could be, well, he could force us, couldn't he, into a 3 striker sort of strategy. And I know you're already, aren't you, Rich?
On that,
with players like Isak and Darwin or Watkins, as well as Haaland as well, because their fixtures are incredible. They're really turning a corner, and he looks the kind of player to hit the ground running. So that'll be really interesting. Looking a bit longer term, then. So we said at the start of the show, so we've got 8 game weeks now in 42 days, which comes up to like the opening couple of days in January. It's not long at all. It's incredibly congested. We've seen lots about injuries. There's a really good read on Fantasy Football Hub, written by Ollie, around injuries and the kind of impact of the extra minutes played this season. It's a really good read. I highly recommend it to anyone if you are watching that. But Bakar, what are you thinking at the moment around this whole period? What are your principles? Though you mentioned earlier about kind of 90-minute men as one. What's your early thoughts on the blank in game week 18, and what are the kind of players and strategies you're thinking of deploying in the coming weeks?
Yeah, firstly, as mentioned earlier, it becomes important to pick players who are likely to play the highest number of minutes. Secondly, it becomes important to carry 2 free transfers. A lot of people who wildcard in game week 8 or 10, they could possibly in a position where they can roll the second transfer this week. Now, I had exact money to move from Matoma to Mbeumo, and I did it because I didn't want to use the second transfer. I think having 2 free transfers in a period where random rotations or random benchings could hit is going to be very important. So there's that. I mean, this is the kind of period where I won't exactly recommend making luxury transfers. So let's say if there's a high upside player that appeals for just 1 week, I won't go for him necessarily, because I think the transfer could be used elsewhere. As far as Game Week 18 and the blank is concerned, I haven't really made my mind up yet as to how to negotiate it. I mean, I still have Archer in my team. You raise an excellent point on Nottingham Forest and Wood. Now that Avani is injured, if someone is looking for a budget striker, let's say a lot of people have João Pedro or Nketiah under teams, and if they're looking to downgrade, I think I'd probably go to someone like a Chris Wood over Archer, because Wood is playing Bournemouth at home in Game Week 18 while Archer is Villa away. So that 0.3 million I think can be used to get Wood, who has a good run of fixtures before Game Week 18 as well, but crucially has a good fixture in Game Week 18. I do think there will be the school of thought which will think that Game Week 18 free hit could be an idea, and it could be popular. Now, I say that because Liverpool and Arsenal are playing against each other, which is a fixture where you'd expect low upside from the likes of Salah, Saka, or the Arsenal defense. And we have a lot of us are going to have Mbomo and Haaland, as well as the fact that a lot of us would have sold our Villa assets by then, because Villa have a tough run of fixtures from especially Game Week 15 onwards, where they're playing Arsenal and City and Brentford away in 3 successive game weeks. So a lot of us would have sold our Villa asset, but then Villa have Sheffield United at home in Game Week 18. Similarly, Newcastle have Luton away in 18. Rich mentioned Isak. Now, there's a good chance that you might want Isak for that week, but you're not going to sell Haaland for him, let's say, if you're playing normally and if you're not deploying the free hit chip. So there is the school of thought which might prefer free hitting in 18. I haven't really made my mind up about it, but I can see why some people would want to go there, because you can triple up on Villa and triple up on Newcastle, get the likes of Trippier in for those fixtures. But that's why I want to roll with 2 free transfers, because I don't really want to commit to a certain strategy as early as Game Week 13.
Well, I guess the free hit as well. We're going to have a second half of the season with far fewer doubles than we saw last season. We had 14 double game weeks, didn't we, in the second half of the season, or something ridiculous, and we're going to get 2 this year, according to Ben. It could be as 1 blank, 1 double, or something like that. So the opportunity to use chips in double game weeks like we had last season it's not going to be as difficult to navigate that period, because you'll have loads of free transfers around those few doubles to stack the team. So I do think it's very viable to use a free hit then. So it'd be interesting. It's good for the game when the strategies are different.
Exactly, but I mean that's why I won't sort of that blank is not putting me off buying Mbomo this week, because even though the blank is going to happen in 5 weeks time, I just think Mbomo stats. I mean, he's third for XGI, only behind Haaland and Salah, and he just doesn't get subbed off. This is exactly the kind of player you need in your teams right now. So, the fixtures that he has coming up from 14, Luton, and then Sheffield United in Game Week 16, and even in some of the tougher fixtures like this week, I won't be surprised to see him all. I mean, I have double Arsenal defense, but I've bought Bomo in this week, because there's this chance when he's playing in a 3-5-2 up top. He's a very good long-term pick, and he could even return this week.
He's also we talk about the importance of 90-minute men. We kind of joked at the start of the year when Mbomo was but he scored a tap in the last minute, but he's scoring penalties. He's got 4 attacking returns in 90 plus minutes this season. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in kind of stoppage time or injury time. So it just goes to show how important that is, and it is a part of the game. As much as everyone wants to say with Palmer but their penalties, well, we get penalties in football, and he's the taker. The same, the same for Mbomo. Because Mbomo's a 90-minute man, they will catch out players in the break, like we did with Chelsea when they're chasing the game and things. So even though they are, not pure goals, they're still attacking returns and they're still points. So, and just on Game Week 18 blank, we've all been guilty of this in the past. If we're not free hitting, we're guilty of kind of overlooking players and trying to, as you said, Bakar looking at kind of Newcastle and Villa playing things when their fixtures aren't that great either, kind of either side, and being a bit blinded by it, which means that we sacrifice points either side just to try and get and eke out an extra 10 or 15 points in 18. Is that something you've done before? Because I know Rich and I certainly have.
Yeah, I mean, you do sort of get this tunnel vision. It's this classic case of
Absolutely.
tunnel vision. But I just want to be in a position where I'm just owning the best players from with the best data. I mean, this stat on Mbomo, or that he's just behind Salah and Haaland for XGI. I mean, that is
Crazy.
ridiculous for a guy who's 6.8
Half the
million.
value, yeah.
It is ridiculous that he's just behind Salah and Haaland. I mean, if I were to guess at this point where he would be, I won't even have him in the top, 15 if you ask me this start of the season, especially when you look at non-pen XGI, but his non-pen XGI stats have been very good as well, which just sort of tells me that it's been 12 games that Brentford have played. It's a decent enough sample size, so he is playing really, really well.
Yeah,
I made the mistake of selling him on the Gameweek 10 wildcard because I expected his performances to drop off in some of the harder games, but I completely misjudged the fact that he's going to be on he's going to be playing as a striker in a 3-5-2, and he still did well.
One of the reasons that Will from the Hub has had an incredible start, on the I think he's about like 20k or something. But he used the Hub data, this exact stat. So he wildcarded in game week 6 or 8, kept and bum away, and I was wildcarded in game week 10. I was just having like a chat with him, just as I was wildcard, and he said, "What are you doing with Mbomo?" And I said, "I'm taking him out." And he said, "Well, according to Hub data, he's got third best. I think he might even had second best XGI at that point, and that is the main reason why he kept him." And he's punished all of us since, all of us who wildcarded him out because of fixtures and this. But that's one of the reasons why he's had such an amazing start, was because looking at the data and kept him in. So very, very well through gritted teeth. Very well played there, Will. Really good stuff. Rich, what about yourself? Have you given much thought to your kind of medium-term strategy over this period?
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, obviously, I'm a recent wildcarder, so I definitely set the side up in game week 10 for this period, basically. Not just the immediate fixtures in front of me. So I went for a strong front 8, 3-4-3 setup normally, but flexible enough to play Palmer when Chelsea's fixtures turn, so I've got him as my sort of first bencher for Chelsea's tougher fixtures, but that hasn't really worked out points wise because he's done well in those tough fixtures as well. And, as he's looking great, and got him in at 4.9, he still continues to rise. So my team value dilemma is shrinking. At least got a couple of million in growth in recent weeks. So that's easing, because I was really worried about having a low team value just before the wild card. And very pleased. There's always a danger when you really like your team, isn't there? And you really like your setup. It tends to not do well when you like the look of it. But having Darwin in there already, having Palmer, having Anthony Gordon, there's nothing wrong with him. My two risks, I don't have Bowen and I don't have Son. Those are the two guys I don't own that have been performing. But again, that's sort of come to me a little bit because of the injuries to Tottenham's defenders and the Maddison injury. I'm not so desperate to get Son into my team now. I think he's fine to hold, but he's not someone I'm immediately, breaking up the team to sign. So yeah, very happy with the setup. And I hope obviously that Liverpool continue to perform. I'm really looking forward to the fixture this week. I think that'll be another great game, hopefully a high scoring game. And also Chelsea, look like they're finally turning the corner. They're certainly providing a lot of entertainment value, that's for sure.
In terms of a potential double game week 20, which Ben has kind of mooted that he thinks this Brentford Man City game is kind of likely to fit in there. Any thoughts around that? I suppose if anything, it heightens the free hit for 18 because it means you can hold on to your Haaland and Mbeumo and whoever else.
I mean, I've got, like Bakar, I'm going to try and carry the second transfer until I really need it. I've done done a free transfer this week, and I'll go into next week and I'll have another free transfer, which won't have to be Mbeumo that everybody else is buying. And so therefore I can probably keep carrying it through. And if I can actually carry it through 18 as well, you can go through 18 with them. Burmo and Haaland have 2 free transfers in 19 and another one in 20. So then you can have 5 double game weekers. I mean, it's not, against late wildcarders, that's not much of an advantage, is it? I mean, I actually think, I've seen quite a lot of questions this week about Bernardo Silva being someone that's maybe flying under the radar. He's looking really good. We haven't mentioned him on the pod this season, I don't think. No. But, he's returned really well. I think he's about 7 mil, is he? Really quite an outstanding price. It's just, there's always a slight dial over anyone starting in that City lineup, given the options that Pep has. But he seems to be one of his favourites, and certainly Bernardo, you'd be thinking could be a really good shout for that double game week, or really just bring back Alvarez, the other side of that double, and again holding the third striker position, because actually I don't think there's anything wrong with Watkins. I think Watkins is almost like could be a season keeper for many. He's just going to tick over regardless of fixtures. He's got that good fixture in game week 18. But if you're playing a 3-5-2, he's really your only leverage for bringing in another player. Whereas if you're playing a 3-4-3, you can move that piece around, to Wilson, to Darwin, to Isak, to Alvarez, without worrying about Watkins.
Lovely stuff. At the moment, it's defense in FPL this season has been a bit of a cesspit so far. It's probably fair to say. Not many clean sheets. Not that many attacking returns actually. But with many teams, having reasonably settled front 7s or 8s, at the moment with the emergence of Cole Palmer, lots of people got Archer. People are generally reasonably happy with the 7 or 8. Defense is something we haven't really looked at or touched on much for the last few weeks. It's a bit boring, but in terms of defensive transfers, Bakar, who would be if you were to pick sort of 3 defenders for the next few weeks who you'd be looking to get in, who would they be?
Yeah, I think this is relevant to a lot of people because, as mentioned, a lot of us are in this position with, the likes of Salah, Haaland, Watkins, Saka, Son, Mbomo, Palmer. These kind of guys are not going anywhere. So you will be using your transfers on defense in the weeks to come. I personally think that someone like Cash, I mean, let's say if you're in a position where you have 2 free transfers, nothing pressing to do, I think someone like Cash is sellable. 3 of his big chances this season have come when he's been playing as a right winger, and now it doesn't really look like he's going to be playing in that position again. He's likely to play as a right back, and as a right back, his attacking threat is just not the same. So the threat is reduced, and the fixtures have toughened up as well. So I think Cash can go from now on, and I don't think he's a must-have by any means. The only advantage of holding on to him is the fact that he has Sheffield United at home in 18, but again that comes at the cost of sacrificing the 4 or 5 week split that preceded. In terms of which defenders are there to buy, I think Saliba would probably be my first pick. Let's say if I was on a wildcard this week, he is the defender with the highest expected minutes for Arsenal, and Arsenal are the best defense in the league statistically. When you look at non-pen XG conceded, Arsenal are doing really well. And when you look at their next 3 fixtures in particular, they're playing Brentford, then Wolves at home next week, and then Luton in game week 15. So in each of these next 3 game weeks, Arsenal are actually the bookies' favorites for keeping clean sheets in each of the next 3 weeks. So I really like the idea of having at least one Arsenal defender, if not 2. Saliba would be first on my list, or I mean Gabriel could be second. Other than these guys, I think if I was looking at someone, it's actually a very horrible week to be buying a defender because the chances of an immediate return are very low. But when you look at the next, let's say 6 weeks, the likes of Chelsea stand out. Reece James is someone I have a very keen eye on. I think he would be my number 1 target if he stays alive.
Here we go again.
If he stays alive,
bandwagon.
If he stays alive by game week 15 or 16, I think I'll be getting him in very, very soon. I started the season with him, but I'm not going to learn. I'm gonna live by the sword and die by it. I think I'm gonna eye him up.
Old Mike test.
Colwell is the safer pick, I guess, because he's only 4.6 million. He's actually projected to drop in price as well, so he could be 4.5 by the time we want him. He's back in training, and it looks like he's the most secure out of the defensive picks that Chelsea have. Yeah, I mean, these are the ones. There's the outside shouts are Porro maybe, but Spurs don't exactly have the best fixtures. And City, I mean, you can load up on City, but again, they're going to blank in 18, and with 2 blankers already in the team, that's going to be a bit of a headache navigating through Game Week 18 now. So yeah, Chelsea remain top of my list.
So I got a nickname for Reece James after the last 2 seasons. We call him Mike Test now. 1-2-1-2, 1-2-1-2.
Yeah,
because that's his,
1-2-1-2.
that's all he bloody
26,
scores when
1-2,
he's in our
1-2.
teams. Exactly.
Yeah, it's.
Rich, anything to add on defenders?
No, I mean, I do. I put a tweet out about Reece James earlier this week, and it was very much along that, binary kind of sequence of numbers, with interjected with a massive haul. But you've just got to be extremely patient. And I would just say, if you are going to go for Reece James, make sure you've got a good 4th defender. Would be my advice, But yeah, fortune favours the brave, and if you have got a spare transfer, mate, why not punt it in game week 16 onwards and just hope he stays healthy and gets a lot of minutes, because he is, potentially explosive. He's the most explosive player that maybe we've got in the game, but he just can't stay fit. I mean, you're not going to get more than 2 or 3 weeks out of him before his next setback. So yeah, I mean, I still like Newcastle. I think we're going through a period now where it's very difficult to afford Trippier and keep Trippier in your team alongside all the other shiny toys, and wanting to get a 3rd striker in, and wanting to keep Son and Salah and Haaland and so on and so forth. So yeah, Trippier again until once we get AFCON and Asia Cup, and we have to lose those premium players. That's the time you can bring Trippier back. I've held on to Fabian Schär. He's like your second best, most nailed Newcastle defender. I'm quite happy to hold him. He's slightly more expensive than some of the other options, but still think Newcastle are really, really solid and will continue to be, especially in home games. So I like them. See no reason to sell their defenders. Harry Maguire probably deserves a mention. I'm glad I got him in on the wild card. He's very cheap. Seems to be nailed down the spot at United, and he's even getting politicians calling him out, isn't he, in Africa or whatever. So that was quite funny this week. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good options out there, but this, as you said, doesn't feel like the week to get a defender, because you want kind of the guy you transfer in to give you some sort of immediate return. And I don't really see any clean sheets much this week across the board. Yeah, I mean, Arsenal may get one for those doubling up, but Palace are pretty solid, continue to be pretty solid, don't they? But I just feel underwhelmed by Palace. I mean, Everton, if you really want to go out on a limb, Mikolenko's
been on fire recently, hasn't he?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
The thing with James is, I mean, of all times in the season, we're going to be buying him in the festive period. I mean, that's the worst possible time to be buying him. But unfortunately, it coincides with Chelsea's good fixtures. So I mean, that's the time you have to go.
Can you honestly see him Can you see him getting 3 starts in that 14, 15, 16 sequence?
I think he'll miss one game. Chelsea have a reasonable schedule. I mean, it's not jam packed. I can see him missing one game out of, let's say, 16, 17, 18. 14, 15 are tough fixtures, actually. Chelsea are playing Man United and this Brighton. So I think he's going to play 14, 15. And that comes with a reasonable gap as well. I think he's going to miss one of 16, 17, or 18, which is one of the easier fixtures, unfortunately. But, I mean, that's the risk you have to take. And on Newcastle, you actually make a good point. I love the Newcastle defense, and statistically, they're doing really well. But the problem is, I'm really not sure who to buy. I mean, I think we'd be in a much better position sitting here at this point next week discussing the Newcastle defense, because at this point, we don't know whether Portman is playing. We seem to hear conflicting reports every other day. One day we're hearing that he's undergoing surgery. The next day we're hearing he's back on grass. So, I mean, Eddie Howe's not going to tell us the truth. So, I mean, let's just wait for more information. At this point, Lascelles is a bit of a no-go until we hear clarification on Portman. And Livramento is probably still all right to go for, but again, he doesn't really feel safe with the fact that he was benched last week. So that does put some doubts in my head. So I think I'd be more confident deciding which one to go for next week, because if we get a 4 million or 4.3 million defender in the Newcastle defense, that's going to be a game breaker, especially considering how good Newcastle's fixtures are
Really good.
from game week 15
well,
onwards,
right.
and in game week 18 as well, they're playing Luton away. So if we get any sort of hint as to which one is the guy to go for, that could be big.
James Thompson in the chat says Lauren James will outscore her brother in FPL points over the Christmas period. And just a point on Maguire. I've seen some really funny things this week. He's been in really good form, right? He's played well for Man United, played well for England, I think. But then everyone's saying like I've seen some things like everyone should be apologising for but I mean Maguire. Let's be honest. He's been bloody dreadful for a long time. He really has been. Why should you then apologise just because then he has appreciate the fact he's now improved and playing better and stuff. Absolutely well done. But you can't go back and say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Sorry for criticising him when he was absolutely bloody dreadful. I just don't get it. I really don't. Just a quick look at predicted points. Then overall, this is for all players over the next few game weeks. Again, there's only one defender in the top 20, and it's 20th, and it's Trippier, 36 points. Right at the top, Haaland, 57. That includes the blank as well. Son, 55. Rich.
Talk about exposed wounds.
So I'm still hopeful that. No, he hasn't. He's unlucky against Chelsea. He was offside by an uncut toenail. So I'm still hopeful. And I was looking at Spurs fixtures, and while they don't look too great, when you actually look at them, they've got 3 of their next 4 at home. They are good at home, and teams like Villa, Man City, even though they're good teams, they Son I can still find him, getting in behind and doing well. Then after those 3 in the next 4, they then want to run a 4 or 5 really good fixtures over the Christmas period. So I'm pretty hopeful Son can do the biz. I think really hopeful that he can turn up over that period, and people like yourself are going to find it hard to get him in. That's the thing.
I think it's this weekend's going to be a big. Well, I'm actually going out on Sunday afternoon. I think that's when Tottenham are playing, so I'm not going to watch that match, the Villa game, because that's going to be 2 high lines playing the offside trap against each other.
They're going to be playing like on the halfway line, like
exactly
20 men on the halfway line.
Yeah.
Salah's third, 50.
I do think Son will do well. I want to touch on this because there is this discussion that how Spurs will fare without Maddison, and they struggled against Wolves. They didn't really create much. I don't think Son had a penalty area touch in that match, in fact. But it's just down to one game, and Wolves have done really well at home. They in fact restricted Man City to no big chances, and at home they actually gave a very good game to Newcastle and Villa as well. So at home they're solid. I won't let that one game put anyone off Son. I still think he'll do well, especially this week. Villa, I noticed a big disparity in their home and away data. Actually, they're actually second best for big chances conceded at home, and they're second worst away. So I think this could be a week where Son does well. And you're absolutely spot on, Fergie. While their fixtures don't exactly seem good from a defensive point of view, they're still all right from an attacking point of view. And the thing is that while their creativity might decrease without Maddison, I think there's a much higher chance now that Son ends up taking penalties, which could be big, especially. So I still think he's a very high ceiling pick. And let's say if we hear news that Haaland is a doubt, or if we don't hear any leak before the deadline that he's starting, then I have no problem moving to Son captain. I think he's a very good shout.
I mean, Rich, you'll be going out for your meal or your drinks with a green hour and coming back with a big red by the sound of it.
Well, I'm just looking at adding. I look at Saka plus Darwin versus Son and Mabama, and Mabama doesn't appear on this chart, does he? So let's see how it washes out at the end. Fingers crossed Darwin smashes it. That's what I've got coming back. So
Bruno,
sorry, mate.
Go on.
It's all right. No, it's fine. I'm just burbling on about Son.
Bruno is up there still, 43. Saka. Wilson has been flagged since I produced this, so Wilson should be out. Obviously, Isaac's minutes will go right up, so he will be in this chart as well. Darwin 41, Watkins 41, Gordon 40. Jackson is quite high. The fixtures for Chelsea, obviously now, Nkunku's expected minutes haven't been plugged in yet to take over from Jackson. We don't know whether he's going to play with Jackson, whether Jackson will play or not. So again, take this as kind of as is at the moment, but obviously, you need to add your own level of discretion into this when thinking about players. Bowen 39.6, and that is with a flag as well. Palmer, Martinelli, Eze in the late 30s. Odegaard looks to be back fit as well. Could be an interesting differential. Before he went off and injured himself, he was looking a really good option. A few more names down the bottom, but some interesting ones there. Best captain this week. Interesting one this week, as you say. In terms of the hub predictor, Heung-min Son is top 7.3. Rich, another kick in the old doo-doos for you.
A pre-kick, yeah.
Pre-kick.
Exactly, yeah.
Haaland second, 6.6. Salah 5.6. Bruno 5.3. And on the vote, Haaland top 41% of the vote. Bowen second, 20%. Son only third. Rich, captain for Game Week 13.
I will be putting it on Haaland. Obviously, only haven't got Son to consider. I think if I owned Son, I would captain him in this fixture.
Really?
So yeah. Because of, I think that Liverpool City fixture, I think probably we've been a bit spoiled with some of the quality of the matches and we've had, and so we're kind of getting used to high scoring matches now this season. It feels like it's going to be a high scoring match. If you ask me to predict the score, I'd say it's going to be a 2-2 draw, or say 3-2 to City. So it feels like that kind of game. So plenty of goals, I think, plenty of chances. And so you've got to really put it on the City man in the home game because he's got such an outstanding record. I mean, Salah could do well. If you don't have Haaland, you do have Salah. There's no problem captaining Salah in this match. But I think you've got to say that Tottenham with Salah and Haaland playing each other, it's probably a great weekend to caps on.
According to FPL Gaza, just quickly, Brighton tweeted a picture of Mitoma in training just 25 minutes ago. Interesting one there for Mitoma owners. Bakar, who would you be captaining this weekend?
I think I'll be on Haaland. I very rarely go away from Haaland when he's playing at home. Especially if we get a league that he's starting, I think I'll go with Haaland. But if he's a doubt, then I'll switch to Son. I do think captaincy is a very close call this week. I don't think it's as straightforward. A lot of people seem to be favoring Haaland off the bat, but I think it's actually a very close call for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Son could do well against Villa.
Yeah, agree. I got nothing to add there really. I'll be going for Haaland. as he's just proved, was it away to Chelsea, and kind of it doesn't matter who he plays. He's just an animal. I think if anything, sometimes he. And this is just like observational. He tends to turn up even more against the bigger teams and finds it harder sometimes against the lesser. I think in the lesser teams they just try to control the game, don't they? They just knock the ball from side to side, back to front, side to side all the time, just control the game, have like 80% possession and stuff. But in these games, he really seems to turn up. So yeah, Haaland for me. Probably Son ahead of Salah, though I do think it's quite close. Salah's form is just superb. He's got a really good record against Man City as well. Man City always concede. So yeah. Mark Anderson just quickly in the chat just caught me. I just want to say, chaps, this is my favourite FPL stream podcast. I usually listen to the pod, but I seem to have caught a little of the live stream for the first time. Happy days. Welcome, Mark, and welcome to everyone else who has found us for the first time. Fergie is a punt. Game week 13 to 16. This is my 4-week punt. I had been on really good form. I had Darwin, Simicast, Evan Ferguson, Foden, who all returned, did really, really well. I did pick Martinelli last week. I was actually very confident on it. I don't think he returned, did he, Martinelli? No, he didn't, which was disappointing. But this week, for those who watch FPL Juice, Bakar, very sorry to do this for you. But after your performance on FPL Juice, we are going to time you FPL Juice style to see if you can beat the 1 minute it took you to guess Victor Lindelof. So how we...
I must admit, but I did catch it live, and I was in absolute stitches watching you try to get that guy. I really did find that extremely entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I thought of all teams that play in red, but unfortunately, Man United just did not. It just did not click in my head. I just It was unreal. I mean, it took me like 45 seconds to guess the club. And had I guessed the club, it would have been easier, but it was insane.
I should know the winner. I think the leaders did it in 7 seconds or something, isn't it? That's the best ever.
I mean, I find that unbelievable. The guy who's done it in 8 or 9 seconds. I mean, how can someone pull this off that quickly? It's very difficult.
This was going to be interesting, Bakar, to see if you can make it under a minute. So for those who haven't seen it, if you haven't gone to see it, go and watch FPL Juice. It's a live stream every week. Great guys, great show, really good fun. But what they do, you have to guess a player just by yes, no answer. So Bakar will now ask us a series of questions. We will answer yes, yes or no, and he has to try and get the player from that. So I'm just going to put now on the screen the player that is my punt for this week, which I've now done. So Bakar, when you ask your first question, the clock will start.
Is this guy playing at home?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this guy a striker?
Yes.
Yes.
Archer?
No.
No.
Wood?
Yes. Oh my goodness, Bakar!
Well you redeemed yourself.
Got it. Yes.
Well, I can't.
Amazing.
I can't believe that. That was I actually pressed
How was
it.
that?
That was 11 seconds, but I actually pressed. I was
done.
so surprised he got it so quickly. I actually kind of went and then pressed it.
Look at that smile on his face.
We're going to go for.
I redeemed myself. I'm very happy.
We're going to go for 10 seconds there, Bakar. That was pretty impressive. Fair play. Unless you've got the YouTube, unless you've got the stream online. That was really good. Oh, sorry, it's one word answers rather than yes or no. But yeah, really good stuff, Bakar. Very well played. So Chris Wood, as we know, 4.9 million. We heard earlier, Awani is going to be out for quite a while, a few months. We picked out Woods, didn't we, a few weeks ago when he scored a couple of goals. And the fixtures, I haven't got them in front of me, but I know they're pretty sharp for the next few. So yeah, well done, Bakar. And if you're going for a 3-5-2 or something like that, and you are looking for someone just to fill in on the bench, Archer's been the popular choice. But I think Wood will, is going to overtake him now if you're wild carding or if you're looking for that sort of price point. So
what's his price, Fergie? What's his price?
I think it's 4.9. I want to say 4.
Is it 4.9?
4.9. I want to say.
How much is he? 4.9.
Okay. Yeah,
that's good.
Incredibly cheap. So sorry, his fixtures are in front of me, right in front of me. Home to Brighton, home to Everton, away to Fulham, away to Wolves. So those first two especially could be really, really good, for a short term punt there. We've now got our teams on screen going into the weekend. Rich, we've got yours up first. Do you want to tell us your plans for the weekend?
Normally I haven't made a transfer by this time, but no surprise to anybody, I brought in Brian Mbeumo 2 nights ago and have now been, urging his price to go up each night, which it fails to do, despite the predictors suggesting that he's close to a rise. So yeah, Mbeumo's come in for Mitoma. If Mitoma plays, I'm not that bothered. This is a transfer I would have made next week anyway. A couple
of tough transfers. Tough. I think away to Forest, away to Chelsea are tough fixtures anyway, aren't they? I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think he's returned 1 assist in the last 4 weeks or something. So basically, Mitoma is gone. So I'll be persevering with Areola for at least a few more weeks. But I'm like many, I'm growing exasperated with West Ham's lack of clean sheets. He'll be playing. My 3 defenders that I've got on screen here are Cher, Gabriel and Maguire away to Everton, although I have consulted with Adam about whether or not he'd play Cash over Maguire. I think it's a close call, and I think I'll probably swap that and just play Cash for the attacking upside against Tottenham. I mean, certainly there's a belief that, with Tottenham's sort of weakened defence that Villa will get something out of that game. So I think Everton will score against United. What do you think?
I do. I think they'll beat him
Cash
personally.
over Maguire? Would you play Cash over Maguire?
I think both teams will score. I think Everton will score and Spurs will score as well. So
yeah, not much in it, is there?
Everton's attacking numbers have actually been very, very good this season. I think generally when we look at Everton, we sort of perceive them as this kind of side which is not as attacking, but that's actually not true. Their data is suggesting that they're actually attacking much better than last season. So I definitely expect Everton to score, especially given the fact that it's away for United. So yeah. I would play Cash as well, just chance it for any attacking returns.
Yeah. So Salah, he's my vice captain. I'm playing Gordon ahead of Palmer at the moment. That's another close call, but I would normally go with the home player. in that fixture. I actually think Newcastle will win the game against Chelsea. At home, it's a tough call. Chelsea have been really good of late, but I'll still put Palmer first on the bench, and then up front I've got my little differential is Darwin. So hopefully he gets the nod. I do. I've seen other opinions saying that he won't start, or people thinking he won't start because of this, that, and the other. I just think Klopp is really pleased with the relationship that Salah and Darwin have struck up. They seem to be, turning into a nice twosome. And basically, I can't see him not playing his best team against City. So I think Darwin will start as long as he's had a good rest on the plane. So really looking.
And there's a good chance we get early team leagues anyway.
Yeah, exactly. If he is benched, I mean, the temptation would probably be to put him on the bench, wouldn't it? I mean, would you start Darwin if you knew he was benched? I mean, or you'd play Palmer, wouldn't you? Put Palmer,
of course, I'll play Palmer for the penalties. I mean, I think it's a close call, even if we assume that both are starting. Yeah, I would probably play Darwin if he's starting, but if he's benched, then 100% play Palmer.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Cheers. That's me.
Yeah. Interestingly, Rich, your recommended transfers this week. I don't know if you've seen them, but it was
Son.
It was Watkins.
Try and find a way to get.
It was Watkins out for Archer, which may have now been upgraded to kind of Wood, potentially, and Mitoma to Son. That was your recommended transfer. Like as we saw, the predicted points for Son for the next 8 game weeks are through the roof. So interesting there. Bakar, what's your plans for the weekend?
My plans are hopefully to chill and hopefully to have no other flags come up with my team before the deadline, because that was part of the plan all along. Hopefully, I'm able to get through the deadline with not too many issues in my team. I have Areola in goal, Gabriel, Saliba, double Arsenal defense, Gehi. I sold Mitoma for Mbomo because I had exact cash for the move and I wanted to have a transfer next week. I want to roll a transfer. Other than that, I have Saka, Son, Salah, Watkins, Haaland, who's likely to be my captain if he's fit. The decision in my team is captaincy to a certain extent. If we think that Haaland is a doubt, then that will become a bit of a debate, and I might go Son in that case. But if Haaland is fit, I'll stick to him. The other decision is Palmer versus Archer, but I think I'll play Palmer, despite the fact that Archer has a better fixture. I looked at some of the data, and even Ben Davies, Patterson, Ake, Brownhill, all these guys, they have a better XGI per 90 than Archer this season. So despite the fact that Sheffield United are facing a hopeless Bournemouth side, I think they're equally worse off.
Why is everyone buying Solanke then if Bournemouth are hopeless? I mean, this is what I can't get. The hype on Solanke is ridiculous, isn't it?
I think Solanke is still all right because he's cheap and he's on penalties. With Archer, I mean, the numbers are far worse than Solanke. I mean, I do get Solanke to a certain extent, but Archer's numbers are just so bad. I mean,
would you rather have
even though he's
Archer, Sheffield United, or peak Keenan Davis for Aston Villa, Bakar? Who would you prefer?
Peak Keenan Davis for sure.
Legend.
Yeah, absolute legend. But yeah, that's the decision, and I think I'll play the penalty taker in Palmer simply because his underlying data is so much better. What do you guys think?
It was interesting how on the graphic on the screen, I'm pretty sure this Fergie's just picked this straight off the hub, but it's got Saliba benched behind Gabriel. Can you explain that one, Fergie? That's weird, isn't it?
I'm assuming that Gabriel, I will try and have a look now, but I'm assuming that Gabriel has probably got better attacking stats. I'll just have a quick look.
Oh, over the last couple of seasons, maybe, yeah.
XG.
He's predicted more points this week. That's
Gabriel's got slightly higher higher XA and XG is the reason why. Only ever so slightly though. Just his performances over the last few seasons. But as you can see, there's only like 0.2 points in it. But yeah, and
I assume you guys would be happy playing Palmer
ahead of Archer. I would play Palmer ahead of Archer. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I don't really want Palmer.
I don't know. I think it might be a good week to go for Archer. Firstly, mind you, only if you think he's going to start, because he did have a benching, didn't he? A week or two.
Yeah, I think he's going to start. He's been playing well, even though McBurney is back. I think he's going to start, but again, just seems very underwhelming.
He is, but anyone away to Newcastle is as well. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's a It's a coin flip. It's a coin. If he's ever going to score
it's
goals,
just the kind of thing which I won't regret either way. I mean,
Yeah.
even if it goes against me,
that's fair enough. And you've
It
gone
is
with
what
the
it
ownership
is.
there as well, haven't you? So, your recommended transfer,
Yeah.
which you've already done, was Mitoma to Mbomo. Again, Bakar, which you've already done. So,
Yeah.
well played there. Just quickly onto my team. Areola in goals. Got Lascelles, who I brought in, obviously for Simicast. Another back four of Taylor, Cash, Gabriel, and Simicast. I haven't really given it much thought yet, I've got to be honest. I'll probably play Gabriel and Cash, I think. So I'll have Gabriel, Cash, and Lascelles, I think, as the back three. I've got Son, Salah, Gordon, Saka, who I'll be playing. I'll probably do Mitoma too. And Bueno as well. I know it's a pretty boring template move, but it's just the right move. I think, everything we've talked about with him, the fixtures upcoming, the non-pen XG, all this kind of stuff. He looks a really good player to own. Haaland and Watkins, and I think that the fact we haven't really touched on this yet, but the fact that we are kind of carrying through 2 free transfers a lot of the time also means that we can get to 3-4-3 quite quickly as well, because if someone like Son or Saka or anyone like that gets injured, if we haven't got Palmer, I'm talking actually quite specifically now about my team, but even if you guys, you haven't got Gordon and Palmer, but I can go very quickly down from like Saka to Palmer, Son to Palmer, and then go very quickly up to like Archer to Darwin or Nkunku or kind of whoever it is. So my plan is to carry the 2 through for as long as I can as well. And like I say, even though my defense isn't great, it's just not really that many options I'm excited about, as you mentioned earlier. You just kind of, and can't see many clean sheets either this week. So the reason Haaland is predicted to score lower than Son this week is because he's flagged. So that is the reason. So I think if Haaland, when Haaland's flag is removed, he will be predicted to score more than Son. So people looking at the predictor, that is the reason why. Any thoughts at all, gents? I kind of look at my team and I'm just happy with it. Just can't seem to budge.
Really nice, really good. I mean, Taylor. Obviously, probably Taylor's more ideal. I would play Gabriel ahead of Taylor. I think that's what you just said.
I will be playing him. Yeah.
I think Simicast and Taylor on the bench, Mitoma to Mbomo. I think the transfer pretty much picks itself. Then in a few weeks' time, you can potentially look at downgrading Gordon for Palmer.
Yeah.
Are you getting fed up with? Are you getting fed up with Areola? Though? Are you going to try and?
I don't think I'm going to use a transfer. The fixtures are pretty decent. Burnley and Palace next. I may look after that.
You can kick down the road, doesn't it?
It is.
It's just more sort of
again because of lack of clean sheets. Who'd you go for?
I've given up. I've just given up expecting anything from him. I mean, literally, if I get a save point, I'm just treating it as a bonus because keepers have been very underwhelming this season.
I think he'll be better as a second keeper. I mean, we've all paid 4.2 or less for him. I mean, I think just dump him down to the bench and try and get a Raya in, or
Sanchez would be quite nice.
Yeah,
I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sanchez is someone I think could do well, especially with the fact that Chelsea have a good run of fixtures coming up, and no one from their defense is exactly 100% secure for starts. So I think Sanchez could potentially be an option, even though he might be replaced in January. Chelsea are in the market for a keeper.
Maybe.
My recommended transfer is also Mitoma to Mbuemo. Got the 0.5 change last week. I did Udogi to Lascelles last week, so happy with that. And don't forget, for everything you have seen so far, it's all available to Hub members. So we've currently got a Black Friday offer on. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can do so now for a full 30-day free period. You get 5 game weeks. This includes my team, recommended transfers, predicted points to artificial intelligence, dedicated WhatsApp groups with like hundreds of other people. It's really, really good fun if you sign up for our pro membership and so much more. I haven't got time to go into everything. It's just absolutely crazy amount of value there. And don't forget, it's all on the FFH app too. So search for Fantasy Football Hub on the App Store or kind of wherever you get your apps. It's an absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL, and it's also a great opportunity if you haven't signed up for a Hub member just to give a go and see if you enjoy it, and promise you will not be disappointed. And that is it for us for this week. Thank you so much to everyone who joined in the chat. Those who will watch it back and those listening on the podcast version, your support is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much for joining us again this week. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter, or X as it's now known.
Indeed. And Bakar, absolute legend. Always, always as usual, great to have you on. Great insight. Really, really appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you?
At Big Man Bakar on Twitter and Instagram, BIGMANBAKAR.
Lovely stuff. And my handle on Twitter is at FFH_Fergi. This podcast video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, give us a like. Please give us a like. We've only got 98 likes so far. We've got over 500 people watching live. Only 98 likes. It takes a second. It really, really does help us. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We'll be back next week for a double header. So next week, we will be previewing game weeks 14 and 15 due to the tight turnaround. In the meantime, the very best of luck for game week 13. And may all your arrows be green. Good night all.